Today, we're digging into the story of the Gotthard Base Tunnel, a project so ridiculously ambitious, they actually called it the Mount Everest of tunneling.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. You really have to understand the sheer scale of this challenge. This wasn't just another construction project. This was a mission that many of the world's absolute top engineers looked at and said, nope, absolutely impossible.
And the result of that impossible mission? Oh, just the longest tunnel in the entire world. It stretches an incredible 57 kilometers straight through the base of the Swiss Alps. To put that in perspective, that's like tunneling from one side of a major city all the way to the other, but completely underground. And get this, it's also the deepest. At its lowest point, you've got up to 2.5 kilometers of solid rock. We're talking the weight of 3 Burj Khalifas pressing down on top of you. Just imagine that. So you have to ask the big question, right? Why? Why would anyone even attempt such a dangerous and colossally expensive project? Well, the answer lies in a centuries-old problem that was literally grinding Europe to a halt. You see, for centuries, the Alps have been this massive wall splitting the continent in two. The old ways of getting over them, these long, winding, zigzag roads, were painfully slow, super dangerous, and half the time they were blocked by snow or avalanches. By the time the late 20th century rolled around, the situation was a disaster. Thousands of trucks were causing these never-ending traffic jams and spewing out pollution. The whole system had hit its breaking point. Northern Europe's factories needed Southern Europe's ports, and vice versa. If they didn't find a solution, the entire trade network was at risk of just collapsing.
The engineers knew this was way more than just a fight against rock and dirt. They were basically declaring war on the raw power of nature itself. And nature showed up in the form of 3, terrifying enemies. First, and this is the most obvious one, you have the unimaginable pressure from millions and millions of tons of mountain sitting right on top of you. And listen, that quote, it's not an exaggeration. They did these early test tunnels, and they proved that the mountain would literally try to crush the tunnel shut. The weight was so immense that solid rock would just spontaneously collapse. No warning, just gone. Now, their second enemy was a bit more sneaky, the intense radiating heat coming right up from the Earth's core. Deep inside that mountain, the temperature soared to a blistering 50 degrees Celsius. That's 122 Fahrenheit. The entire worksite was basically a giant oven. Under those conditions, a person could only work for maybe 15 to 20 minutes before risking serious heat stroke. It was a potential living tomb for every single worker down there. But the most fearsome enemy of them all was the one they couldn't even see. It was this catastrophic, high-pressure water hidden deep inside the rock. Now, we're not talking about a simple leak here. This was water under such extreme pressure that it could blast through a concrete wall like a cannonball. And at one point during the digging, that's exactly what happened. It created a flood situation almost instantly. One wrong move and you could unleash a torrent powerful enough to just flood the entire project.
So, you're facing these impossible odds. What do? Well, Switzerland assembled a literal army of innovators and built some of the most incredible machines the world has ever seen. They put together an army of 2,600 workers who operated around the clock deep underground for 17 years straight. And their main weapons? 4 absolutely colossal tunnel boring machines, or TBMs. Each one of these things was almost half a kilometer long, with a cutter head bigger than a 2-story house. Altogether, they chewed through 30 million tons of rock. That's enough to build 5 Great Pyramids of Giza. So how exactly did they use all this manpower and all this machinery to beat the water, the pressure, and the heat? Well, their solutions were Nothing short of genius. To take care of that explosive water, they realized they couldn't fight it head-on. So they got clever. They changed its form. They drilled these small pipes ahead of the main tunnel, pumped a freezing liquid through them for weeks, and literally froze the ground solid. The TBM could then just drill through this frozen, stable block of earth and ice like it was any other rock.
Brilliant.
And their other solutions were just as ingenious. To beat the heat, they basically installed a gigantic cooling system that pumped chilled water all throughout the tunnel. And to fight that crushing pressure, as soon as a section was bored out, boom, workers would immediately spray it with a layer of concrete. In the really weak zones, they built this incredible artificial skeleton out of steel rings and massive concrete slabs to hold the mountain back.
So after years and years of this relentless inch-by-inch battle deep inside the mountain, the world just held its breath, waiting for one single historic moment. It's October 15th, 2010. After 17 years of digging from opposite ends of the mountain, two teams were now separated by just a few feet of solid rock. This was it, the moment of truth. And then it happened. The giant cutter head of the TBM burst through the final wall, and when they checked the alignment, the two tunnels, dug from 57 kilometers apart, met with a deviation of just half an inch. That is an act of precision that's like trying to thread a needle from 50 kilometers away. Just unbelievable. But the danger, it wasn't over just yet.
Even with the tunnel perfectly carved and lined, there was one final, completely invisible threat that was still waiting. A force that could have shattered the very trains the tunnel was built for.
And that enemy? It was the air itself. See, a high-speed train entering a single long tube acts just like a piston in a syringe. It creates this massive shockwave of compressed air ahead of it. That shockwave would have nowhere to go and would be powerful enough to literally blow out the train's windows. But of course, the engineers had foreseen this. They built two separate parallel tunnels that were connected by crossover passages, which allows all that air pressure to safely dissipate.
Ultimately, the Gotthard Base Tunnel isn't just a masterpiece of concrete and steel. It really stands as this profound testament to human ingenuity, to our perseverance, and to sacrifice.
Because this incredible feat of engineering, this marvel that totally redefined what is possible, it came at a heavy human cost. A memorial stands at the tunnel's entrance to this day, ensuring that the world never forgets the 9 workers who went into that mountain and never came out, and the true price of progress.